Are you wondering when and how Walt Disney World Resort is going to reopen after a worldwide pandemic? Well, you're going to want to watch this. This video is intended for viewers 13 years of age and older. All right, so I have not been here, Jones at One Stop Mouse, for a little bit. I have been straining my brain and doing a lot of research on what's going on right now in the world, and I wanted to share that with you. Please, before we get further into this, subscribe to this channel and hit the little notification bell to stay aware of what we're doing. We have not done a video for several weeks. Lots of reasons to that. I will catch up with you in another video as to that. But I just had to obviously get this out of the way about when and how Walt Disney World Resort is going to reopen, because there's so much misinformation out there, like on so many matters, Walt Disney or otherwise, that I just sort of wanted to redefine this. I feel like I haven't done a video like this since I did a video last summer called Defending Galaxy's Edge, which you should check out. That was very interesting and compare it to what's happening right before the parks closed when Rise of the Resistance opened. But anyway, COVID-19. You know, everybody's working at home or furloughed or, we're all shut-ins, basically, and everything has changed. People have various opinions on this, but the big reality for this channel specifically, and for you if you're watching this, is Walt Disney World Resort in Orlando, Florida, closed temporarily on March 15th, 2020, and we don't know for how long that's going to be, and we don't exactly know when the end is in sight, i.e. when they're going to open and under what circumstances, what sort of safety measures will they be taking, and even beyond that, mentally for people, when will they feel safe enough to go? I.e. when would it be worth the money for Disney to open the parks because enough people would want to go, or, with all the people that I hear are chomping at the bit right now and who are going to spring break regardless of social distancing things and everything, would a lot of people just say, the heck with it, I've been shut in for a while and I'm going on a vacation, and would that be a dangerous thing as a kickback to start up a lot of infection? Well, let's take those things one at a time and review some of this information right now. I recommend for the most accurate updates to go to waltdisneyworld.com and also to Disney Parks blog at Walt Disney World and Disney Parks blog at Disneyland and the Facebook and Twitter pages associated with those. So here's the big question. When could Walt Disney World open? Well, this is the last week of April and a whole lot of stuff is starting to happen. One, a very telling questionnaire was sent out to annual pass holders from Universal Studios asking their annual pass holders how they would feel more comfortable under what circumstances. Another thing is the Orange County Economic Recovery Board met with Disney and Orlando and other people, and they just put out some basic guidelines that they think that the parks will be opening with. And there's a feeling in the air, little things here and there that Disney might be opening a little sooner, hopefully, than we thought. One of the reasons I suggest going directly to WaltDisneyWorld.com or their blogs is that with misinformation out there and just changing situations, just a few days ago, a lot of people were freaking out because they thought the worst case scenario might be true. The bottom one of these, which is the park wouldn't be opening until 2021. Now it looks more like the very first of these choices, summer, might be the case. But these are the scenarios that have obviously been out there. Either this summer, fall, a phased opening, which means not opening all the parks at one time, but opening maybe one at a time, and then a second, and then a third, or even opening just to Florida residents and kind of burgeoning out, and then that last one, 2021. So just in the last few days, we've gone from worst case scenario, which is 2021, all the way to best case scenario. I can't even tell you what we might hear by tomorrow, but that's the case. All right, summer of 2020. This would be the best case scenario for the reopening of post-COVID Walt Disney World. And that's basically summertime is from May through the latter part of August when the Food and Wine Festival usually starts up. This would be a good sign for our economy, and I would feel really safe going because the mouse is all about safety, and that's the first scenario. Okay, fall of 2020. Not as favorable of a scenario as summer of 2020 around the corner. And number two, in terms of best case scenarios, would probably be a phased opening in summer of 2020. But fall 2020 would be a really good opening time because you'd be able to, especially if it opened in early fall, because you'd be able to get the entire season of Food and Wine Festival, the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween parties, and as you get into the middle of the fall season, that mellowing, cooler temperatures that aren't quite winter cool yet. The next scenario basically is called phased openings, and it's simpler than it sounds. Instead of just opening all 4 Disney theme parks of Walt Disney World on the same day at the same time, they might opt to, say, open just Magic Kingdom for a little while and then Animal Kingdom. They might have different strategies with construction going on and what's going on at Epcot to not open them on the same day, or they might open them on alternating days. Also, phased might refer to geographically phased in terms of who they're going to admit. They're speaking now about maybe their first guests that they have when they reopen being just Florida residents, and then moving out to adjoining states to Florida, and then other states in the U.S., and then internationally. And then last but not least, if the park opened up in 2021, their 50th anniversary year, this would be the worst case scenario. And just a few days ago, that is where everybody's head was at, and they were all freaking out about. So that covers when Walt Disney World might open. However, Be aware, Walt Disney is wonderfully creative, and they could do something none of us are expecting. Let's move on now to the how would Walt Disney World open under the new world circumstances. Universal's first question was, would you feel more comfortable in a theme park where every park guest was required to wear a mask? Well, yeah, I would feel more comfortable, at least now, if I went tomorrow, seeing that the people around me at the park, the guests, were wearing masks. I know that would be hard for them to do in heat and eating and drinking and smiling in pictures, but it would make me feel good to know that was a requirement. Literally on the other side, though, I know that I might not feel very comfortable if it were a hot day and I had to wear the mask. But I think I'd feel more uncomfortable without people wearing masks if I went tomorrow, and I might not mind so much if they were not wearing masks, say, in a couple of months. In China, they already have sold Disney-themed masks. I'm sure that they could sell masks at Shop Disney. Okay, so the next Universal questionnaire question went on to ask, would you feel more comfortable in a theme park that limited attendance to, and they put various capacities. Actually, in their questionnaire, they put 50% capacity or 25% capacity. I paraphrased it because since then, just like a day ago, the Orange County, which is the county that Disney is located, Florida Economic Recovery Board, has put out 50% and 75% capacity in their basic guidelines. They're figuring right now that when we open the parks, we'll start out at 50% capacity and then amp it up at some point where we feel safer to 75% capacity. Even if they cap the attendance to 50% or 30% or 25% or whatever it is. When people go to the parks, as a lot of you are aware, people are looking at My Disney Experience app. They're trying to figure things out. They're having a good time. They're in awe, or they're tired, or they're whatever. But it can be a real overwhelming experience in good and bad ways. And people, I mean, even if they had much less people in the park, people are still going to bump into you. And I've had people run directly over my foot with one of those handicapped buggies. So you would have to expect that even if they had all the things that at least I can imagine in place to make sure that you've got a mask on and they're socially distancing, that somebody would not be doing that. One question is, how low could Walt Disney World operate? We're talking about, capping the capacity to 50% or 25% or whatever. How low could they do that with operating costs and all these additional safety measures, and it still be worth opening the park, possibly even losing money? Universal went on to ask, would you feel more comfortable in a theme park that implemented touch-free payment methods for food, parking, and merchandise? Yeah, at this time at least, I think personally I would feel more comfortable with that. And I was just looking into, I knew there was Apple Pay. I didn't know if there was an Android version of that because I have an Android phone, but there is. Would you feel more comfortable in a theme park where staff members wiped down each ride vehicle with antiviral cleaners in between each rider or each party? Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I just don't see the reality of that. It would make the lines really, really long. And I also know that when you wipe cleaners, unless they're cleaners that I don't know about, if it's something like Lysol, you have to spray it on and kind of let it sit there for a few minutes to actually kill the viruses and then wipe it off. It's not an automatic thing. I guess wiping it to some degree is better than not. So I'll say yes. I just don't know the reality of the effectiveness of this. This is an interesting question. Would you feel more comfortable in a theme park that temporarily closed all indoor attractions? Well, obviously that's two-sided. I would feel comfortable with some of the attractions being closed where they couldn't possibly social distance enough and they had to close those indoor attractions for safety. Is it worth going to the park if I am someone coming and paying that $100 somewhat odd dollars to go to the park? Is my ticket worth that value if so many attractions are closed? I guess that depends on which attractions you like and which park it is. I would guess that annual pass holders wouldn't really mind so much, and locals really wouldn't mind so much, but trip of a lifetime people might mind more. Would you feel more comfortable in a theme park where self-serve food options, they're talking about the buffets here, were modified to table service? My personal answer is yes. Under the circumstances, I think that would be a great idea, and I'm pretty confident that they could do that in a way that would be fine with me. One of my favorite restaurants is Ohana. Here's a platter right here from Ohana at Disney's Polynesian Village Resort, and they just bring platters to you like that, and it's all you care to eat, but you don't have to have contamination problems at a buffet line. Would you feel comfortable in a theme park where all staff is required to undergo daily rapid COVID tests, the ones that take 15 minutes, and only those staff testing negative can work? It's obviously not a reality to do COVID testing right at this point today. This is April 28th while I'm doing this, for all the cast members at Disney every day, because they have a lot of cast members. And even if it were a phased opening and it wasn't all of the parks, just say Magic Kingdom, that would be a lot of tests. And right now there are not that many tests available, so they would have to become far less rare to do that, to make that a reality. Would you feel more comfortable in a theme park with increased sanitation, many foot-operated hand washing stations, and many hand sanitizer stations? The big answer here for me is yes. I think this would be the most important thing of all, that we could definitely control, each one of us, and basically wash your hands before you get on a ride, right at the beginning of the queue. Get on the ride, wash them again. After you get off the ride, keep your hands away from your face. Wash your hands before you do anything, before merchandise, after merchandise, before and after food. This would be a big key for me. Would you feel comfortable at a theme park where the staff members are all wearing masks? My answer to that is no, I wouldn't. It'd be a little bit weird, especially for first-timers to Disney, but I don't think it would ruin the magic for me. But all this talk about masks, I've already told you I think I'd be uncomfortable wearing a mask in the heat and the humidity. But one other aspect of it is Disney has not allowed adults in the parks to wear masks as a long-standing rule, and I'm sure they have reasons for that. So if all the guests were wearing a mask, that might make me feel a little uneasy. Would you feel more comfortable at theme park restaurants that decrease the number of tables or moved tables further apart to maintain 6-foot social distancing practices and made mobile ordering more common. Well, that all makes sense. And if I were sitting in one of the theme park restaurants where the tables were really close and not at least 6 feet apart, I would feel definitely uncomfortable at this time. I think they should make mobile ordering available for every restaurant right now. So right now you're falling to one side of this line or the other. You're either saying, geez, this is ridiculous, this is so paranoid, this is crazy, I'm just going to go. Or you're saying, geez, there is a lot to consider and I'm afraid to go and I'm not going to go until next year or something like that. Well, here's the last question, and it's one that I know that you knew was coming. Would you feel comfortable visiting a theme park that required each guest to have their temperature taken with a handheld forehead thermometer, those guns? Then again, with an oral thermometer, if you tested positive, if you had a fever, and then if you did test positive a second time, possibly being denied your park entry if you had a fever twice. Well, a lot of people feel that's too intrusive, even with all of this, but it most probably will be a requirement if you want to get into the park if they open it anytime soon. And a lot of people have questions on this because lots of things make your temperature vary. Just one person to another, temperatures vary. In the hot Florida sun, your temperature can go up a few degrees. If you're a woman who's ovulating, you can be having a slight fever. If you're a young child with a tooth coming in, you can have a slight fever. So I'm not sure how that is all gonna play out. Okay, I've clipped together a few shots of some of my final thoughts coming up, but let me just sort of wrap it up by saying that some people haven't been out of their homes now for over a month straight. Some people in some states are demonstrating that everything should go back to normal right now. So there are extremes in one side or the other. And of course, the views on what we should do with reopening Walt Disney World, how and when, and the manners in which we do it, those are going to differ very strongly as well. Just keep your eyes open to the Facebook pages. But please do what you feel is best. Stay safe and realize that Disney's in a tough position trying to keep everyone happy and keep everyone safe. May the mouse be with you. There are a lot of people that basically say, look, it's a theme park and it's an at-risk situation just like it's been all along. We just haven't had this kind of a situation happen. But you have to use your own common sense. But of course, there are a lot of children, there are a lot of surfaces to touch. I know when I've been standing on lines at Walt Disney World in the past, I've been snaking up and down these switched back lines that have the railing, and I'm trying really hard to not touch them. But of course, you usually do end up touching them to some degree. So in the past, I've tried to do that, thinking about how many people have touched those surfaces, but it's very difficult not to do so. And I can't imagine getting in my dune buggy at Haunted Mansion and not actually putting my hands on the rail. I could imagine washing my hands a lot, using hand sanitizer a lot before and after, and just doing it during the day a lot, and trying not to touch my face. I have worked in a hospital in the past, and I certainly know I did that when I was in those circumstances, so I could do it. It's not actually a big deal for them to make their attractions with 3D, non-3D, so you don't need 3D glasses. The 3D glasses supposedly go through extensive sterilizing between people using them. If it were me and I wanted to be careful and say I wanted to go tomorrow, I would get myself a mask, probably, just like I get everything else themed Disney, even though I have my own masks, and they might as well sell Disney-themed 3D glasses. They sell everything else, and I'd get it before I even went to the park, and have it in my own little Ziploc bag. How do you ride a roller coaster without your mask flying off, or maybe saliva or whatever droplets going backwards? Can you actually say the word social distancing and theme park in the same sentence? Is like oil and water, how do they even go together? I do not envy Disney right now, because as they're trying to solve these problems, if you start looking at these things as many problems as you solve, if you're being cautious enough to solve the problem, it seems like it creates another problem. I think it probably goes without saying that for right now, if they opened up tomorrow, part of the liability release of purchasing your ticket would be a little bit more stringent as to enter at your own risk. And they would have signs up all over the place saying enter at your own risk. It's a very litigious society nowadays, and somebody with a disability is now suing Disney because they felt that they weren't notified that there was a dip, that they downplayed the dip in the Frozen ride. And so I can't imagine how many lawsuit possibilities there would be for Disney with opening up after e-COVID. This is what I'm hoping for. I would like the parks to open up as quickly as possible when Disney deems that it's safe. Now, I want you to take a little bit of comfort in that, because when we have hurricanes down here in Orlando, the locals here basically board up their windows and then go and stay at a Walt Disney World resort. Well, why would that be? Well, Walt Disney World's resort construction standards are higher than they are in the rest of Florida. A lot of their standards are higher than they are in the rest of Florida, and even the rest of the country or the world. So, not speaking for Disney, but let me tell you, my opinion is when Disney feels that it's safe for you to go back to Walt Disney World, no matter what any politician or anybody else says, when they feel it's safe for you to go back to the park, I definitely believe it's safe. The mouse is all about safety first.
See you real soon.